Is Jaylen Brown having his best playoff series ever? And are the Celtics having too easy a time? Are people crazy? Is this an argument people are really making? I'll talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season, drop Drew in the mix. And 3 from KP, no we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in locked on after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising banners, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, and I've got you covered every single day, Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts on the weekends whenever they play, and sometimes when they don't, because we just need a bonus podcast. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, watch the show on YouTube, get into that comment section, let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. Used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Later on, I am going to talk about this easy path that has crept up over the past. So worked up about it. I can't even speak properly. Over the past few days, this notion, this concept that, things are going too easy for the Boston Celtics. I'll get to that in a little bit in media overreactions. Let's start with Jaylen Brown. Actually, let's start with just a one quick news note. Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Karalis LeVert are all questionable for Game 5. So if we're talking about the easy path, when I'm going to get to that later, that talk's really going to intensify if Mitchell is out and Karalis LeVert is out. And frankly, at 3-1, I think the Cavs might be just, you know what, we're done. We're going to say we're fighting, but everybody knows what's happening here. So they're probably a little upset that they have to get on a plane and go back home or go back to Boston for this. All right, Jaylen Brown, which was sparked with there's a piece on Celtics blog by Noah Dalzell that kind of talked about the underlying storyline here of Jaylen Brown having just a great series against the Cavs. And I was like, you know what? Jaylen has had a great series against the Cavs. And so much so that, I look at the numbers and it raises the question, is this his best series ever? And the numbers kind of support that, right? So at 26.5 points per game, that's not the most he's averaged in a playoff series. It's the second most, 26.7. But in that series, he shot 54%, and he's shooting 61% here. He shot 51.5% in that series against Atlanta in 2023, which was a 6-game series, but he shot 58% from the line. He's shooting 44.4% from three here, but 80% from the line. The percentages, the efficiency is there. 6.8 rebounds, which not really close to, he's had a bunch of playoff series where he's had 8.7 back in 2020 against Toronto, 7.3 against Milwaukee in 2022. He had a stretch there in the 2022 finals run where he had more than 7 rebounds per game for all but that Brooklyn series. So he's right up there. So 6.8 is right about a high number for him. And the 1.8 assists, not as high as he's had. He had 4.3 against Brooklyn in 2022, which is his high. But put those all together with the percentages, with the efficiency, with the defense that he's playing, and an argument can be made here that, you know what, Jaylen Brown might actually be playing his best playoff series of his career. And I think that's meaningful for Jaylen because I'm doing this show about the noise. This whole show is about the noise surrounding the Celtics. And I think Jaylen, more than anybody on the team, has been affected in the past by the noise. I think Jaylen has had a tendency to say, I feel like I should be doing X, Y, and Z because I'm Jaylen Brown. I'm so good. I'm a star player. I'm an all NBA guy. And these are the expectations of me. And so I'm going to try to do all of these things. And the thing with Jaylen, and the same applies to Jayson Tatum, and this does play into the whole next couple of segments. They're at their best when they don't try to do too much. They're at their best when they move the ball, make their teammates better, and then get the ball back. I've been saying this for years now with these guys. They are 100% effective, 100% effective when they move the ball and then cut or set a screen or do something else and then catch the ball, get the ball back and attack off of that. They are just unstoppable when they play within the framework of the team. They can also be unstoppable individually in isolation situations for a lot of the time, but not all the time. They're not LeBron. They're not KD. They're not Steph. And that's not a knock on these guys. But we just have to understand, and I think, I don't know if they understand or not. You have to have an ego when you're a basketball player, and you have to think that you're the best out there. But they should understand that they are not at that level. They can't will themselves the same way these other top 5 megastars, and not even top 5, right? Top 4, top 3. It's a very elite group of players who can get to that place where you can just will yourself to a performance. Maybe these guys, maybe Jaylen can do it from time to time, but where Jaylen is at his best is playing like he's playing in this series. Yeah, some ISO for sure. Definitely attacking matchups and going ISO, but understanding that getting out in transition and playing team basketball and not trying to do too much, give the ball up when you're stopped and don't try to force your way through. That type of stuff is the difference between this Jaylen Brown and why he's able to put up a playoff performance that right now rivals anything that he's done out there. This series will end, I'm pretty confident in saying it will end in 5. But if he keeps playing like this and he gets to pile up, if they play, let's assume the Knicks won on Tuesday night, so they're up 3-2. Let's assume the Knicks get through, and the Knicks will be a tough series because the Knicks just play tough. They're not a team that's going to lay down. And if they do in fact play the Knicks, one of my points in that, previewing that series will be, do not expect them to just roll over. Even if you're up 20, the worst thing you can do is relax. So let's say that series goes 6 or 7. He'll have the potential to put up a career best in points. Now, his career best in total points was 169 against Miami in the 2022 finals run. That was a 7-game series. He could do that. And that was just averaging 23 or 24.1 points. He's putting up 26.5 against Cleveland, and he can keep doing that moving forward, not just because there are other teams out there that just don't have anybody that can guard him, which is what he said of the Cavs. I don't think anybody over there can really guard me, which is correct. He has that potential because he's playing a great style. He's playing with great poise. And yes, occasionally there's a turnover, but those aren't happening quite as often. And so we know Tatum is having his, he's come alive in the last 2 games for sure. And he's still having his struggle shooting, and he's going to come around, I think, and have his normal playoff performance. Jaylen being able to do it this way, and both those guys being able to do it this way, is huge in being able to kind of overcome some of the things that they might make the way they make life harder on themselves. Put it that way. So that brings me to the media overreactions and this concept of the easy path. I'll get to that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, I know about therapy. I've gone through therapy. I'm not shy about saying that I have dealt with depression over the course of my life. And, it's something that occasionally comes back, and it's not something that you can just shake in my case. And hey, sometimes you got to talk things through. BetterHelp is a great way to do this because when you're looking for a therapist, BetterHelp is all done online. So that makes it very convenient, very flexible. It's suited to your schedule. Person like me, I'm on the road a lot now, especially for the playoffs. I don't have time to go see a therapist around the corner if I can find one who's taking appointments. And I know that if you don't click with the therapist on BetterHelp, you can switch for free. Those 2 big obstacles to therapy that can help get you just someone to talk to. And sometimes you just need someone to talk to either get something off your chest or maybe deal with something a little bit more intense. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch at any time. It's convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Go to BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. You get 10% off your first month. So take care of yourself. Get that deal, 10% off your first month. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA next. I'm going to be on there talking about Knicks and Pacers, and also Denver and Minnesota. Those are the 2 playoff games here on Tuesday night. So Jake Madison and I will be talking about that. So make sure you're subscribed to that show. Watch it on YouTube, just like this one. Whenever you're done, go check it out there. All right, let's get into this with a couple of mailbag questions that I got. One from Chuck, who says, "Why do fans and some media overact so much to every loss this year? And what would you see as a valid reason to be concerned that the Celtics are truly in trouble in a series?" And then Paolo asks, "Are we preoccupied with the Celtics not sweeping every series? Is it really supposed to be that easy?" So that combination of questions gets me into this broad topic, starting with the media overreactions. Why are people in the media or even Celtics fans overreacting? Well, part of the thing is that the Celtics have gone this far without winning a championship. And look, Jaylen Brown is still 27. Jayson Tatum is 26. So that kind of when they've been with the franchise for as long as they have, and they've been through, this is going to be potentially once they clinch this, Jaylen Brown's 6th Eastern Conference Finals in 8 seasons, and Jayson Tatum's 5th Conference Finals in 7 seasons. That is a lot of playoffs to not win a championship. So we can start there. And part of these criticisms, they're based in something that is fair, right? It's some of these criticisms are fair, or not even criticism, concerns, topics of discussion. They start fair. And I think for a variety of reasons. When it comes to fans, impatience. Now, I come from an older generation. I know that it's, uh, I was rooting for the cursed Red Sox, and I grew up with the expansion Patriots in the old Schaefer Stadium before it became Foxborough Stadium and all of that. Like I've been through franchises that never won championships or rarely won championships. And, we're talking about people not seeing a championship in their lifetimes. And then everybody started winning championships, right? The Red Sox went crazy. The Patriots went crazy. Bruins won a cup. The Celtics won a championship. It all happened in a concentrated time. And a lot of people who grew up around that time got used to all of these championships, and now it hasn't happened in a while. And that does kind of shape people's reactions, because it's like, all right, you've been good enough. You've made a finals. You should be good enough to win. And we should be going to another parade. I haven't been to a parade in a few years. Why are you not? It's like Fat Tony with Marge with the pretzel money. My wife, she's been very insistent on the pretzel monies. Why aren't you getting the money? Why don't you have the money now? Like that. Why aren't you winning a championship now? It's a very impatient kind of attitude. So that's part of it. And so you add to that social media, and look, I can easily sit here and say I'm part of the problem in that I have one of the million podcasts that are out there, and am one of the million online journalists out there writing and covering a team. And, started out blogging, and now I'm, I have a Twitter following, and, there's people coming and going, and there are all of these opinions out there, and you have to fight to cut through, and people start to say, more and more outrageous things just so they can be loud and be heard. And then there's the debate shows, and that has to be louder so they can be heard. And that's basically it. That when the crowd, if you're in a room of 5 people, right, you can talk at just a normal voice, and everybody's going to be able to hear you. But when you're in a room of 500 people and everybody's talking, there's a loud din. So you got to yell. You got to really talk loud so people can hear you. If you're not talking loud enough, people can go, "What? What's that? What? Huh? What did he say? I don't know. Can't hear him. It's so loud in here." So you got to talk loud, and you got to say outrageous things. That's part of the problem, because there's 500 people in the room and everybody's saying the same thing. So if you're Kendrick Perkins or Gilbert Arenas or somebody who's just, hey, I'm gonna make my money saying things like, loud and crazy, and so people can be like, oh my God, you get on your phone and be like, I'm gonna send this to my friends. Can you believe that Perk said this? This is crazy. Oh, that's not real. He's making money. He's doing a bit, right? Michael Felger's doing a bit. The people don't understand that. All of these people who say these things, they're doing a bit. It's a performance. So that's why there's overreaction. And I can tell you, I know when Felger's done a bit, because all of a sudden I get flooded with people repeating the same phrases. There are phrases that he'll use and he'll hammer home on a show, and all of a sudden when I say something that is maybe defending the Celtics and he's critical of it, I get tweet after tweet after tweet after tweet, people using the same 4 or 5 word phrase. And they're like, I know these are Felger fans who are, they've listened to his show and they see me on Twitter, and they're going to call me a green teamer, and they're going to say blah, 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 whatever his phrase du jour is. That's how it works. That's just how it works. So as to the why things have been said and the overreactions, that's why. So part of all of this, and I pride myself in trying to be a voice of reason, right? It's not going to make me millions of dollars. I'm not going to get on ESPN being the reasonable guy. But you're going to have at least a reasonable perspective, I hope, in your ear when you hear the unreasonable stuff. So you can at least have two sides to choose from. And maybe you still choose the other side, and that's fine. And maybe that's what's unreasonable to me is not unreasonable to you. What is reasonable and not is subjective. So that's the why. Now let me get to the what. Let me get to this, because this is where I have a huge problem. This notion that I've seen, especially recently, especially after the Celtics struggled a bit to beat the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell. This notion that the Celtics' path is too easy. I'm not impressed with what the Celtics are doing. I'll address that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is going to get you the last-minute tickets you need on the prices, on the events that you want. Now, it is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, so you're going to get playoff tickets faster, easier, and, you can get tickets right down to tip-off. If you didn't expect there to be a Game 5, or maybe you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I will go to Game 5. Maybe because a lot of people are selling their tickets. They know this is going to be a win. They want to sell their tickets so they can use that money towards their finals tickets, whatever it is. Tickets will be available. So you can go. There are last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off on Gametime. The last-minute tickets, not just sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all that stuff. Flash deals get you more because you can get exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of time. You can save more in zone deals where you just choose a section. Gametime picks the seats. You can toggle in all-in pricing so you can see all that you're paying up front with no surprise fees. You can click to see your panoramic view for your seat so you know what you're getting. And the lowest price guarantee will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price on those same tickets somewhere else. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in all of the ticketing industry. So go check it out. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports today. All the big stories, all the big, great hosts that we have here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Go check it out. Locked On Sports today on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. And I'm sure they're going to be talking about Caitlin Clark and her debut. I was this close. If it wasn't on Tuesday, I actually would have been in Connecticut for that. Up and down debut, I would say, for Caitlin Clark, but she'll be discussed on Locked On Sports today, Locked On women's basketball as well. So go check that out if you're interested. All right. One of the most ridiculous things that I've seen is this notion that the Celtics are having too easy a path. Things are going too easy for the Celtics. They're not battle tested, says Udonis Haslem on TV. People go, oh, that's a good point, Udonis Haslem. You don't hate the Celtics at all. People, Lakers fans writing pieces about, the Celtics aren't impressive. People associated with the Miami Heat going, I don't know. I don't think there's anything to this, which is two things, ridiculous and disingenuous. Because absolute number one point here is any one of these teams would trade places with the Celtics in a heartbeat. Everybody out there, every fan of every other team, Lakers fans, Heat fans, everybody would kill to have this setup right now. You think the Miami Heat would be upset if they played that first round series with Jimmy Butler, but Tatum and Brown were out? You think they'd be sitting there going like, hey, this is great. It's not impressive to us that we beat the Celtics without Tatum and Brown, but oh, well, they'd be like, no, hey, you play who's in front of you. That's what Heat fans would say. That's what Lakers fans would say. So, number one, you would absolutely give an extremity, a body part, to switch places with the Celtics. Everybody wants to see their team win. And if it just so happens that the other team is missing players, so be it. No one roots for injuries. I don't want Jimmy Butler to get hurt. I don't want Donovan Mitchell to get hurt, but those things happen. Miami Heat fans had no problem with their big, impressive Game 7 win last year when Jayson Tatum was trying to play through a high ankle sprain. No one says anything, right? They're like, oh, no, the Heat, impressive run to the finals. They don't care. They don't care that Giannis was hurt or limited. They don't care about any of the other extenuating circumstances where they made their run. They just made their run. They're all happy about it. So disingenuous, number one. Two, ridiculous. Because this is how it works. You are a 64-win team, the best team in the conference and the league. You have earned the easiest path to the finals. That's what you have earned by winning 64 games. You're the 1 seed. You play the 8th seed, which in today's NBA is a team so bad that they've lost a play-in game. That's your reward. You're guaranteed to play a team that couldn't even win its first play-in game. So yes, is it easier? Yeah, it's supposed to be. They're the number 1 seed. It's not like the Knicks who faced, a hobbled 76ers team. Joel Embiid, not his normal self. But no one says anything about how impressive that run is. They're playing the Pacers, 24th ranked defense in the league. No one says anything about how it's what a run by the Knicks. They have gotten some breaks. The Celtics are supposed to have an easier path because they're the number 1 seed. You get the 8th seed, and then you get the winner of that 4-5 that is inherently a tier below that top of the conference, right? That you win the conference, and that middle tier is always like 1 star plus some good role players. There's something that keeps them from being top 2, top 3. Generally speaking, there are years where this doesn't apply, but you're playing the worst remaining team of the playoffs. That's the path that has been earned by the number 1 seed. So people are like, oh yeah, this seems like an easy path. That's what the system is designed to do. So the injuries are the injuries, and the Cavs are going to probably be missing 3 key players for Game 5. The Celtics are going to win, and people are going to be like, who cares? And my final point is, that's right. Who cares? Who cares? They're not winning to impress anybody. Their job isn't to be impressive. If they played all of these games tight, people would say, they wouldn't say, oh, this is too easy. They'd be like, wow, top seed Celtics really struggling to knock off the Heat. All those, Udonis Haslem's talking about them being battle tested. But if they played nothing but 5-point games, they'd be like, wow, man, you're the number 1 seed and you can't knock off all of these teams? Really? You're playing the Cavs and that was that close game. That close game was either going to be critical of them, be like, oh yeah, they're not good enough because they struggled to win that game, but also they're not battle tested. So I don't know which it is. People talking out of both sides of their mouths. There are legitimate things to talk about with the Celtics. Like I said in yesterday's podcast, they do play with a human set of emotions. They don't play with superhuman kind of ideals where they separate themselves and become robots like some players do. They're not capable of that. That is, you want to say it's a knock on them? Sure. They have to win differently. Okay? You want to say Tatum is not Kobe, he's not Jordan, he's not LeBron? No, he's not. He's got a team though that's the best team in the league and pieces around him where he can play differently and maybe not score 40. He be whatever, Anthony Edwards or whomever, and that's okay. Like, but that's the Celtics do have to win differently because they do have certain tendencies. But people take those tendencies and blow them up. For what I said in the last segment, they make them into something loud and crazy so people can click and read and listen and all that stuff. So, do the Celtics have some tendencies that can be bothersome, maybe even worrisome to some people? Sure they do. They have proven over time that there are things that have kept them from winning it all, that have kept them from getting to the next level. And this season, they're overcoming that stuff. And maybe in a year or two or three, maybe they do develop a different mentality. Right now, they have to win with some of those same tendencies. Like I said yesterday, same script, same premise, same first two acts, but third act is different ending. That's where the Celtics are. And we can talk about that and debate that and say, oh, well, maybe is that going to hurt them in the finals? Maybe, who knows? We'll see. But the narratives that are out there right now are just hot garbage. They're hot garbage because everybody would want their team to be in Boston's situation. Everybody would love to see. You don't think the Minnesota Timberwolves would like to have this series and maybe have Jokic out? You don't think they might love to see Aaron Gordon sitting in street clothes instead of putting putback dunks and having this great series? You don't think they'd sign up for that? Of course they would. But that's not what they have right now. It's what the Celtics have. You can't trade places with the Celtics. The Celtics won 64 games. They got the top seed and that 8th seed and that 4th, 5th, whatever, for a reason, because that's that's your reward for a regular season of dominance. You get the easiest path. You've been rewarded for that. That's how it works. So don't hate the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's how it goes. That's the saying. Don't hate the podcast. I'd love it if you subscribed if you're new to the show. I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be from the Garden because the Bruins won, so there will be hockey there on Thursday. So they'll be switching the arena over. So either I duck into a side room or I'll have to come home to do the podcast. And we'll see. And I am not planning on going back to Cleveland, so these guys better win that series on Wednesday night, which I think they will. So subscribe to the show, watch the show on YouTube, get into the comment section there. Let me know what you think and share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.